Okay, welcome. This is the Enghouse case study session. Joining myself is Peter Housley. He's Group IT Director at Landmark Information Group. So today's session is really about looking at the migration, the journey that many people have taken from Lync to Skype to Teams. So with that, I will now hand over to Peter Housley. He is the Group IT Director at Landmark Information Group, and Peter will share with you some of the experiences and observations he and Landmark have had as they transition towards Teams.
Great, thanks, thanks Jeremy, and thanks for those that have joined today. As Jeremy said, we are right in the middle of this, actually, moving to Teams with a contact center, Enghouse contact center overlaid. So quite an interesting time for you guys to talk to us and ask questions and on that experience. So, but we'll start with just who are Landmark Information Group. Many of you will not have heard of Landmark Information Group, although probably most of you would have consumed some of our services. So, as the slide there says, we work right across the property industry. We're essentially a prop tech data company, so we hold huge amounts of data around the UK property market, and we surface that in a number of ways to serve the whole market. We have around about 1,000 people in the organisation today. 7 known brands serving these different market segments, 10 sites, multiple business units, and literally hundreds of products. So quite a complex setup. We're also part of a larger group, larger organisation, the Daily Mail and General Trust, known as DMGT. They are a bunch of operating companies in themselves and have a technology function that we obviously report into as well and collaborate with. So that's the kind of framework of the business. What's interesting in these kind of sessions is what technologies do we use? What is our sort of tech footprint? So we are, and have been for quite some time actually, fully comfortable with public cloud and used public cloud since 2010, 2012 to deliver production services to our customers. So that's both in AWS and Azure, primarily Azure, but we work in both those venues. We also run traditional data centers. So we have 2 of those, the traditional co-located data centers, and within there we serve a lot of our public sector customers, some of the lenders, some of the surveying organizations that would prefer to be housed in there. So it gives us quite an interesting technology footprint, a whole breadth of technologies that we use. We also, as a business, from a customer point of view, we have a whole variety, primarily B2B customers, but that does mean we have quite a breadth of customer contact center kinds of needs. So we go from anything from a 70-seat contact center in the traditional way to very bespoke customer service offerings for smaller clients. And one of the things that attracted us to Enghouse 5-6 years ago now was the ability to serve all of those customers, and for the contact center to be able to move and flex with us and be adaptable. So I have to say it's been a successful partnership thus far, so and long may it last. So that's Landmark and really the technology and business footprint, just as a bit of background. Jeremy, do you want to flip on? So what we thought we'd do, and hopefully is of interest to you, is just talk around the strategy we've had around voice for the last few years and see if this is something that you would find useful. So if you go prior to 2012, that's prior to me joining the organisation, we used a Nortel system. I'm sure many of you are familiar with those kind of systems. And then 2012, the brave move was made to move to Lync 2010, if you remember that, back in the day. At that point in time, we had 2 primary locations, about 350 users moved across to Lync. And probably as many customers did in those days, it was quite an adoption issue that we really faced. It was that movement from hard phones to soft phones was quite a challenge at times. We have a pretty large technical staff ratio, so they're rather software engineers or data scientists. So although staff are very technical, we still found in those days some adoption challenges. We then quickly moved up to Lync 2013. At that point, that decision was around call quality issues. We hadn't quite done the work around the network and the quality of service to make sure that the new way of delivering telephony was quite the same quality as the previous system had. So we had the flexibility, but not quite the quality. That drove us towards 2016 and the move to Skype for Business as we developed this further. So what we did here, we put in our own dedicated SIP trunks, we put in our own SBC, session border controllers, and we built our Skype for Business resilient capability across both our data centers. And that was a fair piece of work. Over the top of that, we put in the Enghouse Contact Center. As the business was growing and we wanted to deliver a better experience for our customers, the contact center overlay over Skype for Business was a pretty important part for us. I would say the hardest bit about that was probably the Skype for Business deployment. Any of you who've done that realize there's lots of components and lots of parts in there. The Enghouse piece, actually, I'm glad to say, was the easiest contact center I've ever put into any organization, and I've put in many. So I was pleased with that. Our contact center agents enjoy the software, and that part was pretty smooth. As we moved on in time, at the bottom there, we are an acquisitive company, so we bought a number of businesses along that path, and we spent time consolidating those in and other business units into this Skype for Business platform. And we also looked at our meeting room and our video conferencing space. So we had a video conferencing solution that was completely decoupled from the world of Office 365 and Skype. And when we saw the Surface hubs appear, we adopted those pretty quickly. And I have to say they were a big hit within the business. In fact, I couldn't put enough out on the floor, high demand. Technical teams loved them, the digital interactive whiteboard, the flexibility they brought. So that drove us further down the Microsoft path, and we got to 2018 and really early adopters in the embracing Microsoft Teams very early, actually. Part of this drove us down to thinking around changing our licensing outlook. So previous to this, we were running E3 with phone system licensing add-ons to run the voice. We wanted to move to E5, not just around our voice desires, but also around the security overlay that gives us. I'm sure many of you understand that, but if you move up to E5, there's a whole portfolio of security components that you can overlay. So now we're a fully Windows 10 house. We've got Defender with ATP running, and we're continuing to deploy more and more security tools into that suite. And it's been very effective around what we call our modern workplace strategy, which is really to mobilize the workforce, and obviously Enghouse and Teams, critical components in there. We also had to make some decisions around how Teams, with the rate of adoption it was going down, and Skype for Business coexist. So for those of you who are looking to go down this path, understanding which mode you're going to operate in, whether you're coming from Skype for Business or a different telephony solution, is someone want to let Jazz Shahita in. So choosing the right mode is important. We chose Islands mode because we wanted both Skype for Business and Teams to exist together, and for not to cut one customer from the other, any part of the business from the other. So that was a decision, and something you guys would need to talk with Microsoft about as you go along this pathway. And then more video conferencing, the meetings experience became more important for us than ever. Come up to today, and we are mid-migration to using Teams as our telephony backbone and decommissioning Skype for Business. So we've ported over 1,000 numbers across. We're in the middle of moving 600 staff across to that solution, and we've built out Enghouse Communication Center V11, which interoperates with Teams, and we're in the UAT and just about to deploy that phase. On top of that, we've also got a project around SD-WAN. So as I said, we're fully Office 365, Salesforce, Financial Force, Azure, AWS. So our end users are using cloud services more and more. And what we had to do is look at the way we did our network and make sure that was complementary to the way that our users are working, and the modern workplace strategy and the mobility that we're trying to deliver to all our staff. So we have these 3 projects running. It's interesting that we've managed and continue to roll those out throughout the pandemic. So all our staff are at home at the moment, but those projects carry on, supported by Enghouse, another partner, and ourselves. So great testament to both the tech and the flexibility this brings, that we can roll these services out even in a very distributed state of people that we have at the moment. So that's kind of how we get to where we are now. Hopefully useful, and maybe some of you are ahead of us, some thinking about this journey, and happy to discuss this in the questions towards the end. So Jeremy, do you want to flip on to the next slide? Great. So a little bit more detail here. We didn't want to go into super technical diagrams because we can do that offline with you guys if someone was interested, but just for the purposes of the audience, we thought we'd put these up. So on the left hand side, that was our old estate. As I said, we had many components. Anyone who runs Skype for Business on-prem will know there's a number of components you have to have. This had served as well, actually. Resilience was good, uptime was very good, but the Skype for Business was coming to end of life on its on-premise roadmap was really, Microsoft was pretty clear that Teams was the direction to travel. Our hardware is coming into life. We had an on-premises deployment, and we've got a cloud-first strategy, and really had a complex support overhead. So we had many suppliers in this space, as you would do, from data center providers to hardware maintenance providers, all the way through up to Enghouse themselves supporting the contact center. So we want to simplify that as well. So this is the design we've landed on. It's a very simplified version. There's some wonderful diagrams, I say, behind this explain it. But effectively, we built out 2 environments in Azure. That's multi-regions for resilience, and the components themselves are resilient. So we stayed with Gamma, really ported our numbers from Gamma to Gamma from provider to provider. That was 1,000 numbers. So James is on the call. Had the pleasure of porting 1,000 numbers more than James, and didn't drop a call, which was lovely. And we've got some monitoring in there. We moved to audio codes as our SBC from Sonos. Not that there's anything wrong with Sonos. The partner Nexus that we're working with around this area had proven the architecture, and that the audio code solution was established architecture and worked with Teams direct routing. So that was a known good for us. So we lent on their expertise with James and Ed in the team and pulled that together. Obviously Teams and then Enghouse have helped us by building out their V11 solution, and this works seamlessly. As I say, we're in the UAT testing, and we are moving. We've got most of our users now are using this for voice, those non-contact center users. As you can see, the savings over that time, and it builds upon our E5 Office 365 investment. And I think overall, one of the key things here was the lower cost of change. So as I said earlier, our contact center people really enjoy Enghouse as a solution, and they didn't want to move. And I didn't really want to move to an underlying change in the PBX and a change at the contact center at the same time. We could have done if we'd had to, but go back to those early days of 2018. Around then, Microsoft hadn't released the APIs, and we were looking at lots of solutions. But luckily, Enghouse were early adopters in this space for Microsoft. And have come up with this solution that really works for us. So again, you may have some questions afterwards on this, but we can dig into those. So what's coming next? We've got a couple of acquisitions we're doing at the moment, so we'll be onboarding those, both 60, 70 seat contact centers into here. We're building out our use of Salesforce across the organization and looking to integrate that into the contact center. Those contact centers themselves are looking at the various channel offerings that come with Enghouse. We do like to try and serve up a person if we can. Our product is digital and works pretty well, but when a customer calls, we do like to try and get a human on the end of the phone. But we are looking at those. And I think the other thing that this brings together really is joining the back office services with the front office services, and that's pretty important to us. So having Teams as that underlying platform where we do all of our collaboration, all of our instant messages, we store our files, we can video conference, we can spin up meetings really quickly with the contact center overlay, really brings those worlds together and means that we can get anyone in front of our customers if we need to. We can get the information, our contact center people can get the information they need when they need it to really give the best experience for our customers. That's a really important vision for us. And to give us that flexibility. And then simplification, obviously we've gone down from multiple technology components down to much fewer cloud-based and much fewer suppliers involved. So I'm just going to skip to the last slide from me. So yeah, thanks, Jeremy. Some key considerations. I thought we'd throw a few things up that we've stumbled across along this pathway that may be of use for you. So adoption. So it's probably a bit late in the day now, actually, you're probably all using it, but don't underestimate how quickly your user base will adopt Microsoft Teams. I've never known a product be adopted quite as quickly as this. Now, whether that's the makeup of our kind of staff, there's more technical staff, I don't know, but it's been quite the take-up. Luckily, I've got quite a visionary end-user computer manager who's already built out a champions network of people across the business who really champion IT initiatives such as this, and they've been very important in really getting the right messaging, the right kind of use, and the way we use Teams and how we are deploying that. Also very useful in kind of early days adoption and user testing. So traditionally, we'd throw this out to some of our IT staff, but now we can extend the champions network to really test this on them before we give it to the broader user base. Really impactful. I think strong partner in Enghouse skills. So we're all very far down the cloud journey, but the long days that this was described as a silver bullet have gone. You do need to think about it. There's absolutely loads of advantages in cloud services. There's also lots of challenges as well. So I recommend find those strong partners. We have 2 really strong partners in this space who've really helped us, especially through this pandemic situation. And then in-house skills. We're very fortunate because we run production cloud services ourselves. We have those skills in-house to complement each other as we go through that. Touched earlier on network and call quality. Don't forget that. It's so important. That's got to be right at the top of the list. Meeting room experience. I think really to sell these services, if you can make that meeting room experience fantastic, people will love this product and this pairing. And then just Teams itself, it's slightly different. The pace of change is quick. So every time you log into Teams, you guys will know, you must be using it if you're in this conference. There's a new feature, new functionality. It's moving quite a pace. And then there's a whole bunch of security considerations around the back of that as well. Again, their partner, Microsoft themselves, will help you look at how you do that. How do you create guest access securely? How do you do those elements and make sure that you are keeping your business safe as you embrace these new technologies? Benefits for us, fairly obvious ones there, but let's talk about business continuity for a little bit. So, the day Landmark quite early went into lockdown, we didn't drop a call. Our business just carried on running. Everyone went home and just worked. That was part of our modern workplace strategy that we'd put in for the last couple of years. But I never worried about it for a moment. I knew this would work, and that's a great place to be. Our staff, whilst at home, have come back, various surveys, and say I think 30% of them said they were more productive at home, less disruptions. They really enjoy working from home. So this technology and this kind of framework we've built has really helped that, been a lovely thing for us to show the return on investment our business has made in backing these technologies, which has been quite powerful for the team as we go on to look how we can use technology to drive the business going forward. So great news. Collaboration obviously has increased across the business units as we've got into this piece, and I've already touched on the flexibility and the simplification this has brought to our business. So from the CEO all the way down to our guys on reception, they've all really embraced this tech. So we're pretty happy at Landmark. We've still got a way to go. We've still got a few transitions to get to our end states. And thanks for those that have joined today.
So with that, I will now talk a little bit about some of the assets available to you. If you visit the Enghouse website and look specifically at the Microsoft and the Microsoft Teams section, you'll find we've got a whole host of information and resources available to you there, from ebooks and videos and case studies and white papers and how-to guides. And we also have a free trial available. So if you're interested in having a trial of the contact center that Peter was talking about earlier, or any of our other Teams-based applications, then follow that link, fill in the form, and someone will be in touch and spin you up on a trial pretty rapidly. Okay, so with that said, we will conclude the session.